You're listening to
Catholic Sprouts,
the daily podcast for Catholic kids that strives to plant seeds of faith. Hey there, Sprouts. Today is Monday, March 4th, 2019. It is also the feast day of St. Casimir of Poland. This week, in the Catholic liturgical calendar, we will be making the transition from ordinary time into Lent. On the Catholic Sprouts podcast, we will be talking about some remarkable saints that will hopefully give us some extra motivation during the Lenten season, and also talking about the change in the liturgical year as it happens. So today we are going to talk about a great saint, and that saint is the one we are celebrating today, Saint Casimir. He is a really interesting saint. He lived a long time ago, and he was a prince of Poland, meaning his father was the king. He, however, was the second son, meaning he wasn't necessarily in line to become the king himself. However, he was expected to live as a prince and to be very devoted to the wishes of the king, his father. However, from a very young age, St. Casimir knew that he belonged to a higher king, one higher than even his father, and that, of course, God the Father and Jesus Christ. Much of his life was a struggle between serving God, the King of the universe, and the King of Poland, his father. Now, as you can imagine, as a prince of a nation, he lived a pretty pampered life, or at least he could have lived a pretty pampered life. From a very young age, however, he began to reject the riches around him, the fine clothes, and even the very soft bed and rich foods that he was offered every day. He saw them as a temptation, and that those temptations for those fine clothes and rich food would cause him to forget the true king that he served, Jesus Christ. So instead of wearing the fine clothes of a prince, he dressed very simply. He ate very simply, or not at all, choosing to fast. And he even gave up a lot of his sleep, determined to pray instead of sleep. And when he did sleep, he chose to sleep on the cold floor instead of his royal bed. Now, all of this continued on, and people made fun of St. Casimir, but he didn't necessarily take much of it to heart. He knew that he was called to serve God. The problem was, when he grew a little bit older, his father called on him to lead an army into Hungary, which was a neighboring nation. His father wanted to take over that country and make that land part of the country of Poland. Now, St. Casimir knew that this was not a very good idea, and even the Pope at the time did not approve of this idea. However, St. Casimir went because he knew he was called to be obedient to his father, just like you are called to be obedient to your own parents. However, he was very torn about this, and even the soldiers he led really didn't believe in the war that they were going to fight. And so the soldiers started to abandon, and eventually St. Casimir was forced to turn back without having conquered the nation of Hungary because his soldiers had all abandoned them. Well, of course, this enraged his father, and his father banished him. His father thought that if he cut him off from all the spoils of being a royal, that St. Casimir would start to act like a prince. Of course, this didn't work. St. Casimir instead spent this time in exile, praying and studying and helping the poor. He, of course, refused to marry. He wanted to devote his entire life to God. St. Casimir died at a very young age, and he was very devoted to his faith throughout. The word of his holiness quickly spread through Poland, and to this day, St. Casimir is the patron saint of Poland. Now, St. Casimir offers us some important lessons, especially as we journey into Lent. St. Casimir could have lived a very comfortable and glamorous life. He could have worn the finest clothes, slept in the softest bed, and ate the most delicious food. But he saw all of those things as a temptation that would take his eyes away from his true King, Jesus Christ. And so as you prepare for Lent and begin to think about the sacrifices that you will make and the fine things that you will fast from, I would like you, and this is my challenge for you today, I would like you to remember Prince and Saint Casimir and ask for his intercession, that you too might work to serve the true King of the universe, Jesus Christ, and reject those things that make you comfortable, knowing that they might lead you away from Jesus Christ.
That's it for Catholic Sprouts today. We'll be back tomorrow, but until then, continue to grow in your faith and truly sprout into the beautiful creation that God intended you to be. One final word to the grown-ups. Thank you so much for listening to the Catholic Sprouts podcast. I would like to invite you to join a special Facebook group just for those that listen to the Catholic Sprouts podcast. We will use this group to connect, to share resources around that week's theme, and simply celebrate raising future saints. To find the direct link to the Facebook group, simply check the notes for this podcast episode.